I'll praise you, Most High. Yeah, that sound good, y'all. Hello. What we doing?
Hey, cook that up, Kali.
We still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, we still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, be still. They said you got the call, they tryna blackball you. Like what they own, bro. You can't blackball a boss. The whole world, they hate this right here. The way you hate your neighbor, might as well pull the trigger on yourself. You know we get excited by the smoke. Every day we casting flesh. Say my treasure stored in heaven, we gon' blow the rest. They disrespected and we check. The bank that causing kept it still. They asking others about my business, but I ain't got no instant miss. See, I still deal with ox direct. Cause your person don't mean you respect. Your outlet don't get no credit if the ox ain't in it. Money answer all things and you got all these questions. Playing Vic. Look, I employ slavery. I'll if you broke your head. Yeah, them crews in the hood, Jews in the hood. I caught them clues, now I'm good. I broke it down, he understood my all to you. Filtered through, you found a few, I'm good. We what we sold, this here exclusive. They like, hey, folk, look what you doing. We still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, we still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, be still. Most I told me, be still, give her room to work. Know my movie work. Your faith ain't good, don't put the work in. In the spirit flexing, that my day job. Get in the mode out my own, I don't know what they are. Before I got the blueprint, and I'm too legit to quit. Let it spark in the dark, be a light, got it lit. Tryna map my movement, got my haters pondering. The odds set the question there, they wanna know if you still lit. It hit different, you authentic, a lot of odds pretending. We do it for the Lord, got my own motion, who are you to judge? Put Most High first, none above. Take in the spirit, we locked in, they'll come against your plot. You know Judas said, yeah, we spit them scripts, they barely not. Came on slave ships, then you not black. You know they tell you everything. Isaiah 30:20, yeah, we bad. You see what happened when they tried to rail the train up off the track. False witness, hypocrite. We throw shots back, now they feel heat. Must go get it. We still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, we still getting to the money, got these haters in they feel. Lil' homie, let them chill. Most I told me, vengeance hit my enemies, my footstools. We ain't got no beef for real. Just here, this how we live. Look here, homie, be still.
Yeah. Be still. Enemies is my footstool. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the Lion's Den. Welcome to the Den. You see the title. JJ7000 put Hotep mummy Shakka Atmose in a sarcophagus. That's right. The information that I'm going to be bringing out today will finally put the nail in his goddamn Hotep coffin, and ain't nothing he can do to come back. Before we get into it, man, I got to introduce the queen of the Lion's Den, La Hefa, Sister Karima, in the building.
Man, not the nail in the coffin. How y'all doing tonight? Hope y'all enjoy what we got to offer. Please hit the like if you like it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so before you hit the dot. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, this guy Shakka, you know, he trying to do a comeback. You know, y'all seen them little memes of Bobby Brown running around. You know, he ain't got the moves no more. And that's what's going on with you, Shakka. I mean, back in 2013, some of them little tactics you did and the misinformation that you provided, might have worked. This 2023, 10 years later, a lot of us have caught up to you. A lot of us have surpassed you. You still using, outdated information. It's okay, because I'm here to educate you, man. It's going to be okay. See, the main premise of these guys over there at HOK is that they want to say that everything started in Kemet. The air we breathe started in Kemet. The food we eat started in Kemet. All the pets and animals was breeding in Kemet. Spaghetti and tacos started in Kemet. You see? According to these guys. So, with all this miseducation going on, that's where JJ7000 come into play. I can't let them lead our people astray. You see? But, this is just for educational purposes. Shaka, don't take it personal. So I know don't get mad because another one of your guys is going down in flames with that false information. So let's go ahead, Karima, and get into the information. But before we do that, we got a special treat. This is brought to you by Hotep Ma'at Records by Shakka Atmose. Show You. That's the name of the song. See? Hey, that's the name of the song. Show You. The Show You song by Shakka Atmose. But this is the 2023 version, the remix with JJ7000. Man, I hope y'all enjoy this rendition. I put a little 2023 with it, to make it more up to speed. But then after that, then we all get into the information. Yeah.
Be doing, but I said, wait a minute. I remember Dr. Clark's words. So, the talent's there, the will is there, the desire is there. So just do it, and I'm doing it.
And
That's
how
why
long
we're
have you
here.
been doing this?
I've been doing this for actually a very short time, but I have tried to be responsible about it vocally, taking lessons and running and exercising, being really disciplined about it, and trying to be professional with it. Because I think as Black people, our standards need to be known to the rest of the world. We don't do anything halfway. So I've been trying to do it full way for some time now, maybe about a year or so, possibly. So
wow.
Hopefully I deliver.
You will.
I will deliver.
Wonderful. Oh yeah. We've seen what you've put out, and it's very professional. And hopefully he'll be able to get bumped on MTV or someplace like that eventually. But even if he isn't, it's going to reverberate through our community.
Definitely.
And speak to those that need to hear this important message.
Especially the youth. They
That's
really
right.
need to hear
That's
this
right.
type of message.
That's right. That's right.
Because we're losing them fast every day in numbers that most people don't want to talk about.
Right.
And I even like the name Ma'at Hotep Records. I mean, it says it all in itself. We're trying to maintain Ma'at and keep that balance so that our youth know what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
I gave it that name so that they would ask questions.
Good.
Yeah.
Everything I do so people ask questions.
So there's a dialogue. That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
Get it started.
Wow.
Get it started.
So we're not going to spend too much more time talking right now because we want you to be able to enjoy a performance by this incredible artist. And so without further ado, Brother Shakka Atmose, accompanied by Brother Jostics. Hotep.
12.
Baby, let me set you straight.
Yeah,
what we
Shaka.
did back then was great.
Hey.
You just don't know. Let me show you the past so your future can look bright. Help you walk into the light. If you see yourself, I've heard them say that we wasn't even there. Baby, let me make it clear. We were the ones. If you pay attention to what I'm about to show, there's no doubt that you will know. We were the ones, and I'ma show you. Never time we was that she was black because that's the way that right may hun show you. Egypt was a black land, King Tut was a black man.
Hey.
That's the way that right down and now. We came from the southern land so hot. No, they think that we forgot. Remember the time from the horn and the west. These black people made their way. See them coming for our day. And here is the truth. If you can't see yourself, then it's true you've been misled. Got some lies all in your head.
Got them babies in your head.
I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that mine made her and show you. Egypt was a black land. King Tut was a black man. Cause that's the way that mine made her and show you. Our history, it ain't no mystery. Just listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide, what they can't deny. That Egypt was a black man. Lately I've been thinking of days gone by and all the things that we forgot. Voices from the distant past make themselves heard. Resurrection, something now the truth reveal. Tell me what you gonna do. Gonna keep it to yourself or gonna tell the world? If you do, then prepare for the challenges you face. My heart goes out to you, precious black boys and girls, and I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that fine man can show you. Egypt was a black man. King Tut was a black man. That's the way that Fire made him show you. Hotep. Just listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide, what they can't deny. That Egypt was a black land and show you. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. Egypt was a black man.
Hotep.
Yeah,
Proud of Hotep money. Tyree, Hotep money.
Egypt was a black man.
Shakka. Smash Rockwell, this is dedicated to you.
King Tut was a black man.
All the Hotep monies. Yeah. All right. Woo! Man! What? Hey, I hope y'all enjoyed that rendition, man. Goddamn, man. That's the show year 2023 version, man. I gotta give Shaka a round of applause. Hey, that backup singer wasn't too bad, that old JJ, man. But welcome to the Lions Den, man. You know how we do, man. We gotta smile, make you laugh, but educate you at the same time. You understand me? And the information that my research team and I have dug up is really damaging to the Kemetic community, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You see. So this is what we're going to do, Karima. We're going to go on and break them off something proper. Well, before we get into it, I want to say a shout out to Jay Snake, Cowards Run, Gideon in the building, Open the Knowledge. We got Sister Forever Food, lurking around. Make sure you niggas ain't lying. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Goodbar hanging out. Who else we got up in here, man? Hey, shout out to everybody. Lions Den, The Sharp, welcome to everybody to the den, man. Now we finna learn. All the jokes aside, man. Now it's time to do the damage. It's time to do the damage, Sister Karima. Go ahead and put the video on, because they're going to learn today about pre-dynastic Egypt. You see, I'm going to teach you stuff that they ain't scared to tell you about over there at the House of Consciousness, the House of Clowns, the House of Paper Champions, most valuable paper champion that they got over there, Chris Harris and the Jabaris and the Shakkas. All of them are emasculated as far as I'm concerned. It's sissified. You get a little rough with them, they start crying and sonetta. I don't want to deal with no debaters like that. This is one of the main reasons why I retired. But let's get into it, sister, and go ahead and educate the ladies and gentlemen out there in Lions Den land, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, hit that like, share, and subscribe, man. Yes, he did.
Give me a few seconds.
All right. But yeah, man. While she getting it loaded up, it just amazes me how Sarnetta wants to promote these guys as being educational, and to me, they're easy to catch. They're easy, Let's read some of the comments, and then it says, "Shit, that was that weak ass Negro on House of Conscience. I couldn't do it, bruh." That's Jay Snake. You know. Yeah. What up? What up? Open the knowledge. I see you. Dwayne Bennett said Shaka schooled you recently on Sarnetta though. What was you watching? School me on what? You gonna have to come on and jump on the panel for that one, brother Dwayne Bennett. But welcome, excuse me, Barnett. But welcome to the den anyway, brother. I appreciate you. Cause now you're gonna learn today. I hope you're still out there, man. I hope you're still out there. Everybody hit that like, share, and subscribe. You know, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the song from Comedic Ascension. You know, that's Jabari's channel. You know, go check him out over there if you want to learn some comedic stuff. You know, but hey, they not gonna get in full detail and depth as 7000 do. You know, over here. They do dishonest scholarship. You know, but let's see. Cowards Run. Welcome to the den, man. It's my first time seeing you over here. Be blessed, brother. Ever Foods. I see you. Peace to you. You know, Open Now said, yeah, we've seen this before on Jabari's show. You know, Stephen P. Welcome to the den. Yep. Shaka lied. Josephus didn't say they Hiscos. He was quoting Manito. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, he lied. But he tried to blame it on Josephus, but really, you know, he was saying that too. I'm opening out. We just waiting for the video to load up, and then we gonna get to it. You know, I'm just trying to talk until the video get loaded. We got Kabutu X Kindi. Hope I got your name right. Katuku X Kahindi. Welcome to the Lions Den. He said, "What the hell?" Yeah, that was Shaka doing his thing, you know. But also, yeah, like I said, we got the tournament coming up. You know, Solar Vision Debate League has joined with me and Black Jesus and Sal Showtime. So we're gonna be getting these debaters together, man. It's gonna be something historic. 4 different platforms coming together. And there will be one universal unified debate league champion, $700 cash prize, and a custom-made belt. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, so that's still in the makings. Don't even trip. You know, good things come to those who have patience and those who wait. You know, we don't just want to put any cold type of brand out, or any type of thing out there. You know, just to say we did it, we doing it first. No. Because we see the fruits of your labor right now, and you know who we're talking to. You see? Yeah. What the dance moves? That's the count. Okay. No. See, who was that? Open the knowledge. No, your intro video. Hit that. No, they be flagging me. They be flagging me for that, man. I don't know what's wrong with these people. You know, you can't have fun no more. Open the knowledge. You can't have fun. But while she finding something, let me see if I can pull something up to get us kind of in the mood of the situation, man. I mean, how many of y'all think that Egypt did everything first? I just, you know, I don't teach that, but for some reason, you know, they want to put us down and say, you know, Israel's not real, we fake, we had not created anything. You know, we nothing. Everything we got and learned come from them, but we just twisted it and distorted it according to them. You know, and that's far from the truth. You know. We got Outside the Cube in the building. You missed this, Cube. We just did the Shaka song, man. The remix, Show You, featuring JJ7000. You know, you can rewind the tape at the beginning and check that out. Man, go out and get your copy. You know. We got Ben Yesharum in the building. Would it cross his mind that Kemet and Samaria copied the Bible? Would it cross his mind that Kemet copy the Bible instead. Well, that little pea brain in his don't go too far. So, Jay Snake said, "Run it back." I wish we could, man. We might run it at the end. Garden State Boss, welcome to the den. Egypt was the first to do the kid and play dance, right? You know what I mean? We got Gideon in the house. Let's see. So we just waiting on Karima, but let me find something to read to y'all, man, while we getting the technical bugs worked out. Let me see. Egypt. Pre-dynastic. Egypt. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay. This is from the World History of Encyclopedia, just to set the tone. Until she get it up. Let me know, Kareem. I can't see. I'm just going to be reading very quick. All right. Now, the pre-dynastic period in ancient Egypt is a time before recorded history from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic age and on the rise of the first dynasty. And is generally recognized as spanning era from 6,000 to 3,150 BCE. Though the physical evidence argues for a longer history, while there is no written record for this period, archaeological excavations throughout Egypt have uncovered artifacts which tell their own story of the development of the culture in the Nile Valley. The periods of the pre-dynastic period are named for the regions, ancient city sites in which these artifacts were found, and do not reflect the names of the culture who actually lived in those areas. The pre-dynastic period was given its name in the early days of archaeological expeditions in Egypt before many of the most important finds were discovered and cataloged, which had led some scholars to argue over when precisely the pre-dynastic period began and more. And more, and when it importantly ended. These scholars suggest that the adaptation of other destinations, pro-dynastic period, for the span of time closer to the early dynastic period, 3,150 to 2,613 BCE, or some say Zero Dynasty. These destinations are not universally argued upon, and pre-dynastic period is the term most commonly accepted for the period prior to the first historical dynasties. All right, Kareem, I can't see. Are we still working? Let me see. All right, so let me keep reading until Kareem can get it up. Trust me, it's going to be some good information. Okay. So, all right. So, Manetho's history. In charting the history of ancient Egypt, scholars rely on archaeological evidence and ancient works such as the Egyptian dynastic chronology of Manetho, a scribe who wrote the Egypticia. It's kind of, I guess that's in Greek. Egypticia. I can't pronounce that. The history of Egypt in the 3rd century BCE. The scholar Douglas J. Brewer describes the work. Manetho's history was, in essence, a chronology of events arranged from the oldest to the most recent, according to the reign of particular kings. Brewer continues on to describe the events which inspired Manetho to write his history. It says the origin of the dynastic chronological system dates back to the time of Alexander the Great. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided among his generals, one of whom Ptolemy received the richest prize. That was Egypt, under his son Ptolemy II, Philadelphia's 280 BC. And the Egyptian priest named Manetho, the Egyptian priest named Manetho wrote a condensed history of his native land for the new Greek rulers. Manetho, a native of Symbetius in the Delta, have been educated in the old scribe traditions. Although Egypt's priests were famous for handing out tidbits of information, often intentionally incorrect, to curious travelers, none have ever attempted to compile a complete history of Egypt, especially for foreigners. Kareem, are we still down? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I gotta keep going, y'all. It's wasn't part of my agenda, but sometimes when you're live, you gotta go, you gotta work with, you know what I'm saying? You know how it is, and when you're live, you gotta keep going until the technical difficulties get out. I wasn't planning on reading, but I guess that's what I gotta do. All right. Now, unfortunately, Manetho's original manuscript has been lost, and the only record of this chronology is from the works of later historians such as Flavius Josephus. So y'all hear that? Unfortunately, Manetho's original manuscripts have been lost, and the only record of this chronology is from the works of later historians such as Flavius Josephus, 37 to 100 CE. This has led to some controversy on how accurate Manetho's chronology is. Even so, it is routinely consulted by scholars, archaeologists, and historians in charting the history of ancient Egypt. The following discussion of the pre-dynastic period relies on archaeological finds over the past 200 years and their interpretation by archaeologists and scholars. But it should be noted that historical sequences did not seamlessly follow each other like chapters in a book, as the dates given for these cultures suggest cultures overlapped, and according to some interpretations, different cultures in the pre-dynastic period can be seen seemingly developments of a single culture. Sister Kareem, are we still down? I guess we are. Okay. Welcome, Sarah Pumpkin. Glory to the Most High. You got to learn how to do the shows without her, bro. No, I mean, well, she's doing the technical. I already did a show last night that I did it. So I just want to replay it. So it's already set up. I did it on my personal page, but Cube, I want to replay it here. So yeah. So she's having a technical problem right now. That's good. I mean, that's okay. We'll get it straightened out. All right, let me get back to it. All right. Now, it says, okay, so unfortunately, Manetho's information has been lost. Now, early habitation, the earliest evidence of human habitation in the region is thought by some to go back as far as 700,000 years. The oldest evidence for structures discovered thus far were found in the region of Wadi Halfa, ancient Nubia, in modern-day Sudan. These communities were built by hunter-gatherer societies who constructed mobile homes of flat sandstone floors. Let me ask you this then. So are you guys claiming Nubians and the people of Sudan as your Egyptians? That's what we want to, that's one of the questions I would like to ask y'all. Or are they separate? Because, you know, a lot of the natives that lived in Egypt also went to war with the people who lived in Nubia. I mean, so to me, that's probably two different groups of peoples. But, you know, I'm just learning. I don't know. So whoever on here, a Kemetic expert, please feel free to jump on and answer that question for us. Now, these communities were built by a hunter-gatherer society who constructed mobile homes or flat sandstone floors, most likely covered by animal skins or brush, and perhaps held up by wooden stakes. The actual structures vanished centuries ago, of course, but man-made depressions in the earth with stone floors remain. These depressions were discovered by the Polish archaeologist Waldemar Szymleski in 1929. He was born in 1929 and died in 2004. In the 80s, and were designated tent rings in that they were provided an area to set up shelter, which would easily be taken down and moved. So you see what I'm saying? It was easily taken down and moved, similar to what you could find in modern campsites. So in the earliest days, they had campsites where they could just I guess put up and then take down and keep it moving. These rings are dated to the late Paleolithic age at approximately the 40th millennium BCE. Let me peek over there. I can't see. So I guess, man, Karima. All right. Okay. So, hunter-gatherer societies continued in the region throughout the periods now designated as those of the Iterian and Cormusan, during which stone tools were manufactured with greater skill. The Halfan culture then flourished 30,000 BCE in the region between Egypt and Nubia, which gave way to the Quadan and the Sibyllian cultures 10,000 BCE. I'm trying to figure out why you guys never talk about these older cultures. Y'all really don't really even talk about. Y'all probably touch on the Nakata 1, 2, 3, but you really don't even go beyond that, and you really don't even touch on the Nakata. In their culture and the little tools they use, and the pottery and whatever, the foods they ate. I never hear y'all teaching about that, but that's okay. We don't expect y'all to do, right. Y'all want to half-ass teach about this. Y'all want to try to tell us what we ain't doing with the Israelite stuff, but y'all call yourself Comedics, but we don't ever hear nothing. So all these societies are characterized as hunter-gatherers who eventually became more sedentary and settled to a more permanent communities centered around agriculture. Brewer writes, one of the most intriguing mysteries of pre-dynastic Egypt is the transition from Paleolithic to Neolithic life, represented by the transformation from hunting and gathering to sedentary farming. We know very little about how and why this change occurred, perhaps nowhere in this cultural transition more accessible than in the Fayan Depression. The Fayan Depression, the Fayan is one of the first cultures that they had. And what they're not going to tell you that culture was actually a lot of things that they got a lot of influence from the Levant. They're not going to tell you that. I'm here to tell you. The Fayan culture did business and trade with some of the cultures in the early Levant. Some of the things that were brought into the Levant influenced the people that lived in that area. But they don't want to tell you that because they want you to think that everything comes from this distinct area. Sister Karima, what are we doing? Are we still down? All right. I'm about to call here in a second, see what's going on. All right. I did so much reading last night, I didn't feel like reading, but that's okay. All right. The Fayan Depression, also known as Fayan Oasis, is a natural basin southeast of the Giza Plateau, which gave rise to the culture known as the Fayum, 9,000 to 6,000 BCE. See, Jabari's not going to tell you about this. Smash Rock Will's not going to tell you about this. Shaka, none of them is going to not tell you anything about this. These people inhabited the area around the large lake and relied on agriculture, hunting, fishing for a living. Evidence of seasonal migration has been found, but for the most part, the area was continually inhabited. Among the earliest artworks discovered from this period are pieces of Phoenice, Faince, Phoenice, which appears to have already been an industry as early as 5500 BC at Abydos. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So Kareem, I don't know what's going on, but I guess I got to keep going. This wasn't part of the program, but I guess I got to improvise, y'all. All right. Development of culture in Lower Egypt. The people of Fayan, a built Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shabbat. Calm Yashala. Welcome to the Lions Den. You know what I'm saying? JJ7000 is on the look. All right, go ahead, Chris. Let's get into this right here.
Yeah, you know you gotta hold it down. Shit, StreamYard tripping. Shit, it ain't. StreamYard, they let you in when they want to. Shit.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting ready to go ahead and go into this information that I did yesterday, where it puts Shakka in a compromisable. This is a bad position for them because they want to teach that everything comes from Egypt without any outside influence. So let's go ahead and get into this, Sister Kareem. Loose. You see, I got the Lions Den debate champion in the building, King Naga himself. Go ahead and tell them what it is real quick before I get into the meat and potatoes. Go ahead, family.
Already, Lions Den debate champ, you know what I'm saying? I got a debate coming up against the Lions Den people champ. Still trying to hammer that title out, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get both his position and my position in that thing, you know what I'm saying? So the people clear on where we stand. And, it is what it is after that, you know, so I'm just here for some support. See what JJ got to bring for the people, you know what I'm saying? The man got a lot of knowledge, so y'all tune in and listen to him.
Yeah. All right, man. Let me take a peek on Facebook and see if this broadcast is being broadcast. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. Yeah, we good. Yeah, man. These guys, man. These guys, man. They do a lot of dishonest scholarship, and they don't think that we're gonna go and look into the information. You got guys like Jabari, who's he's an educated brother, and he present information, and sometimes you have to go and check his information, make sure he's telling the truth. I do that with all of them. So they gotta know that everything didn't start in Kemet. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give them a little brief overview of pre-dynastic Egypt, and then I'm gonna get into some information, or I'm gonna read y'all a few things. Just call it a night. Nothing too major, just a little bit of information that they need to know. So we're gonna start with this. Let me see, this is the video right here. Yeah, this video right here. Right here. Hey, Ruben, let me know if you can hear it. Hold up.
Are familiar with.
Yes, I can hear it.
And see it, okay? You see it too?
Yeah. Hey, man, I did a video about that on TikTok. I could tell from the wall paint.
Oh, okay. So yeah. That's what's up. This is for educational purposes. Not Sister Kareem, do we got to play that copyright thing? Commercial. I ain't used to running the ones and twos, uses Karima, but sometimes Sister Karima, she's a busy woman, so you gotta take things into your own hands.
Pause it.
Anyway, this is about pre-dynastic Egypt, early Egyptian history before the pharaohs and pyramids, between 5,000 and 3,000. You running the video? I'm running the video. Let's get into it. You got to pause it, yeah. Yeah, we got to do the copyright thing real quick, man. Shout out to I Am Mana, Water Blue in the building. You know what I'm saying? Sarah Pumpkin. Welcome to the Lions Den, sis. If you go back to the beginning, you can see the Shakka Atmose, Mahat Hotep production. Show you with the remix with JJ7000. It was going down. Go ahead, Sister Kareem.
You niggas be worried about the wrong shit. Sit your dumb ass down and just wait. If not, move her fuck around. Weirdo.
Okay, we can't hear it, Queen.
And Nagada. So, let's get started. Before I go any further, Let me clarify a few things. The land that we today know as Egypt is centered around the northern part of the Nile River. Its natural borders extend from the Sahara Desert to its west, to the rocky Eastern Desert and the Red Sea to the east, while in the north it's constrained by the Mediterranean Sea, and in the south by the Nile River's cataracts. These borders, especially in the south, have expanded and contracted over time, and been dependent upon many factors, from the power of the Egyptian state to the arrival of new peoples contributing to the ethnic diversity of the land. For the most part, these natural borders have helped to somewhat isolate and protect Egypt from invasion, while its location at the nexus of Asia, Africa, and to some extent Europe made it a crossroads for different peoples, cultures, ideas, and influences. Though we call it Egypt, a name that's derived from the ancient Greek word Egyptos, the natives of the land called it Kemet, sometimes also pronounced Kumat, meaning the Black Land. Most scholars believe that this is a reference to the black, fertile soils of the floodplains of the Nile River, which in Egyptian texts are contrasted to Deshret, the red land of the desert. However, because Egypt is the name that most people are familiar with, I'll be using that name from this point onward. Now, granted, there were people living in what we call Egypt during the Stone Age, but we're not going to go back that far. Instead, we'll start approximately around the year 5000 BC, a time that many scholars call the pre-dynastic period of Egypt. Pre-dynastic Egypt is the Egypt before the pharaohs, pyramids, and before the country was united for the first time as a single political entity. It's in the pre-dynastic period that hunter-gatherers began to transform their mobile way of life into a more settled one. This doesn't mean that they lived in large cities, which were still millennia away, but in small farming communities, probably initially comprising of perhaps a dozen or so families. By around 5000 BC, such communities were springing up in many places, both along the banks of the Nile River, as well as some distance away from it. One such community was a group of early farmers at a place called Fayum. Fayum is an oasis town about 100 kilometers southwest of modern Cairo, Egypt. Today, it's a nice place made up of small lakes enclosed by a small valley, which must have made it an attractive place to settle in an otherwise harsh desert environment. However, before all of this, there was believed to have been one main lake with small communities of hunter-gatherers living around its shores. In the 1920s, nearly 300 ancient jars and storage bins dating to approximately 4500 BC were discovered in Fayum, perhaps marking the arrival of the agricultural revolution in Egypt. Before this, the inhabitants of the region were hunter-gatherers, meaning that they would roam the land and move from place to place in search of food, which generally consisted of basic vegetables and roots, some fruits like berries, and hunting various big game animals.
Hold on, watch.
However, these storage bins
I was telling Forever Food, it get real interesting right in the next 2 minutes. Just watch and see.
Yeah, and try to interact with the video a little bit, so you know what I mean.
Okay. Yeah.
Indicate that their ancient owners had both planted and harvested grain, implying that they were no longer predominantly nomadic, but had adopted a somewhat settled lifestyle. Farming has seasons and cycles. You generally sow and plant seeds in the fall and harvest in the spring. If you're lucky and the harvest is good, you'll likely end up with a surplus and be able to save some of the grain for a later date. And so, these early farmers of Fayum created these grain storage bins for that very purpose. It's been determined that most of these held wheat, barley, cereals, various types of seeds, emmer, and other crops. The bins, on average, were about 4 feet wide by 2 feet deep. Farming is dependent upon a stable supply of water. While the Fayum settlement wasn't on the banks of the Nile, it did benefit from the annual flooding of the river. Basically, the floodwaters from the Nile would push their way through a narrow breach in the western cliffs of the Fayum Valley and flow onto the low-lying plain that is the Fayum Depression. The waters of the lake would then rise, and the shores around it would fill up with the fertile silt that was so vital for successful farming. However, the floodwaters of the Nile weren't always a guarantee. If during the season the heavy rains further upstream in the highlands of Ethiopia failed to come, then this could bring disaster, as the amount of fertile farmland for planting would be greatly diminished. Despite their innovative grain bins, the inhabitants of the settlements around Fayum Lake during the 5th millennium BC were simple people. To date, there's been no evidence of any type of rudimentary housing or graves, although these could have been washed away during the thousands of years that the Fayum Valley was subject to annual flooding. Most believe that these people probably lived next to their grain bins, along the banks of the lake, or any nearby streams. It's also possible that they left or migrated to other areas during the year when they didn't need to be there for planting or harvesting. We also know that in addition to farming, they supplemented their diets with meat from hunting. Near the grain bins, archaeologists have found several cooking pots with traces of charcoaled fish, especially catfish, and animal bones that they've dated to around 4,300 BC. Some of these animals include cattle, goat, sheep, boar, geese, crocodiles, and turtles. A question often asked by many archaeologists is...
All right, pay attention to this part, y'all. Here we go. Pay attention to this part here.
Did the people of Fayum develop these farming and storage techniques on their own, or did they learn them from others? It's hard to say for sure, but there seems to be a lot of evidence indicating that there was communication with and a transfer of knowledge to this region from the Levant.
Look at that. See? Transfer of information coming from the Levant. If these Egyptian Negroes knew so goddamn much, what the hell they doing up in the Levant? Getting information and getting technology. But see, Shakka almost graduated from the high school. Shakka almost want to get up here and act like everything started in Egypt. Everything didn't start in Egypt. There's a lot of influences that came from Western Asia, from the Middle East, from other parts of the world. Chariots and stuff, that come from Hyksos. All the Egyptians did was make it lighter. I'm just saying. And yeah, Chris, I seen your little comment you made today, but you're a little flea right now. I'm going after your big dog, your big homie. You see? So yeah, you keep JJ7000 name over there in your little coffee channel, bro. But you nobody, man. Like I said, you had your chance. You ran. I don't play this when it's time to set up to the debate, when I was debating, and then when it's time, you want to run. Oh, I ain't respectfully declined. They don't bark up the goddamn tree. But back to Shakka.
Egyptologist and author John Romer states, at the time that the first Fayum farmers were sowing their crops, other farmers to the north and east had been employing the same techniques of cultivation for at least 5,000.
At the time that the Fayum farmers, this is one of the first major civilizations of the Nile, or what you want to call pre-dynastic Egypt, the farmers were sowing their first crops. Other farmers, Shakka almost, and Sarnetta, anybody that thinks that Shakka knows all the material and information, it says other farmers to the north and east have been employing the same techniques of cultivations for at least 5,000 years. Let me say it again. At the time that the Fayum farmers were sowing their first crops, other farmers from the north and east have been employing the same cultivation for at least 5,000 years. Let's keep it moving.
1,000 years. Nor were the Fayum farmers' crops nor their domesticated animals indigenous to Egypt.
Nor were they crops. Or these domesticated animals indigenous to Egypt. So what does that tell you, Shaka P-Brain almost? That means there was an influence from the outside that came into Egypt, showing them how to domesticate, showing them how to cultivate, showing them different techniques. What you think we didn't know?
Or indeed to any part of Africa. Not their cattle, not their sheep or goats, not their emmer, wheat, or barley seed. Even the design of their flinted sickles had been imported.
Even the design of their flinted sickles have been imported. But let these guys come on House of Consciousness tell you, the Cometics, they came up with everything. Well, history says otherwise, don't it? The grain bins, the sickles, the way they cultivated and the way they did different things did not start there. Other people in other cultures were doing it thousands of years before them. Chris Harris, since you want to throw your little 2 cents in it, don't think I didn't see it. But you're just a little flea right now. I'm going after your big dog.
The grain bins, too, with their muddy linings and their domestic baskets, were of a type that had long been made in the Levant.
Long been made in the Levant, everybody. This has already been done in the Levant. Not in Egypt, the Levant. Do you understand? This is by John Romer. Go look it up, Chris. Go look it up, Shaka. Go look it up, Jabari. Go look it up, Unk. Go look it up, anybody on the Sudo Killers. Cedric. Any of y'all. You're going to learn today. As it did, their grain bins too, and their muddy linings and their domesticated baskets were of types that had been long been made in the Levant. Stop playing with us.
Though the reeds and rushes used to make their grain baskets are native to the marshes of the Nile, some of the abrasive fibers which were used to bind them together had been cut from palm trees, and these too appear to have been imported into Egypt from southern Mesopotamia.
From southern Mesopotamia.
This, though, in no way diminishes the accomplishments of the culture centered around Lake Fayoum, due to the fact that they had to account for the annual but unpredictable flooding of the Nile. Farming was probably much more difficult for them than it was in other parts of the world. The appearance of, or influence of other cultures simply demonstrates that the people of prehistoric Fayoum were part of a larger world, and that by 4500 to 4000 BC, trade networks and the transfer of knowledge between Lower Egypt, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East were alive and well.
But I thought everything was just centered in Egypt. And they didn't get influenced by nothing. They started everything. According to these so-called scholars on the House of Consciousness. See, this is how I know they're either doing selective research or they haven't went back further enough to even state a claim. They're either doing dishonest research or they never went further enough to even go back and say, hey, wait a minute. No, a lot of these things were imported in. The Egyptians knew nothing about. Or say, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, some of the things that came in Egypt were influenced or came from the Levant, but they don't want to tell you that. They want to paint this picture that nobody was sophisticated. Nobody was smart enough to come up with technology and cultivation and things, agriculture and stuff like that, but people in Kemet. That's a goddamn lie.
The settlement of Fayoum wasn't the only place where pre-dynastic cultures flourished. In fact, there were several such cultures. One of the larger ones can be found about 115 kilometers to the north at an archaeological site called Merimde, meaning place of ashes. Close to the Nile River, on the edge of its western delta, Merimde was inhabited for at least 600 years, between 4,300 to 3,700 BC. Its people lived in small, pole-framed huts with windbreakers that seemed to have been laid out in rows. Similar to Fayum, grain pits and bins lined with woven baskets have been found here as well. However, unlike the communal nature of the bins at Fayum, the ones at Mirimde were smaller and seemed to have belonged to individual dwellings, meaning that each family had its own store of grain. Cooking pots have also been found, along with traces of hippopotamus bones, which, due to the animal's size, must have been hunted in large groups. In addition to this, their diet consisted of other animals, including goats, pigs, fish, crocodiles, and turtles. The most striking discovery found at Mirimde comes from its latter years of occupation during the 4th millennium BC. It's a sculpture of a round but
I said they're eating hippopotamuses. Y'all see that? Y'all hear that part? Crocodiles, turtles. I mean, they had a vast variety of diet, food that they ate out there, man. I think I would pass on the hippo and the alligator. That's just me personally. But go ahead, Sister Kareem. Please and thank you.
potato-like human head, the oldest known sculpture of a human that has ever been found in Egypt. Next, we come to the Badarian culture from along the Nile in what's today Central Egypt.
So, Kareem, go ahead and stop
First
for a
discovered
second.
at the site of El Badari, this
Please.
culture seems to have been
Can't hear you.
Oh, we went through the Fayan culture, the second culture. I forgot what they said it was. Now this is the Badari culture. See, at least I'm going through these other cultures with you, breaking down the different settlements that they had in pre-dynastic times. You'll never see this type of scholarship over on House of Consciousness. They're not going to break it down for you. They're just not. Go ahead, Sister Kareem. Please and thank you.
pretty spread out, and the people belonging to it quite mobile. They cultivated wheat, barley, and collected fruits and herbs.
You ever notice that these so-called comedic teachers or so-called comedic influencers in our community, they never talk about these cultures. They never teach you in any depth or information about these ancient people. You ever notice that?
They're best known for their very human-like sculptures and figurines. Though primitive, you can already start to see a certain style that would eventually find its way into Egyptian sculpture several centuries later. As far as we can tell, they were a relatively peaceful people,
stop right there real
at
quick.
least from what archaeologists have discovered at various Badarian burials.
Now, see, they will put these little figurines in front of us as Mesopotamian people and be like, oh, man, see, them ain't blacks. Now, these is found in Kemet, right here. So what y'all got to say about this? This person right here, this lady. Because that's how y'all would do us. I seen you do it before. They do it all the time, y'all. This doesn't look like this. These are black people. This is y'all. So now I'm questioning now. Well, what is this right here? What is this? Shakka, Sarnetta, Polite. No, damn, not Polite. Yeah, he had to mix. Jabari, any of y'all. Explain this. Then you got Jason over here. Hold
on. She got a little dreads or something jumping off right here on the sides. I don't know. She got, little big lips, big nose. Yeah, she's got weird eyes. I don't know what's going on with that one, but she got big lips. If you look at it, she got dreads. She got braids. You can tell that she got braids.
So what's up with see, this is the first
I don't know about Jason.
Yeah, see, they created Jason. Now we give y'all that right there. There it is. You see. They were the first to come up with Jason. There he is on the screen. Jason goes to Kemet. Let's go, Karima. Please and thank you.
Burial site, where there are few remains that indicate they died due to violence. Unlike many other early cultures in different parts of the world, the men at Badarian sites were buried without any weapons, indicating that they didn't come from a warrior society.
Yeah, they do
The
look like
people of the Badarian culture also seem to be the first that both archaeologists and anthropologists can confirm with relative certainty to have resembled the Egyptians of the later dynastic periods. Egyptologist John Romer writes, "The men were generally clean-shaven and wore their hair quite long. Some of the women had fringes and plaits fixed up with combs of bone or ivory. The color of their hair varied."
How come the Egyptian so-called women is going with these dudes? Let's call themselves Kemetic and Hotep. Where your fringes at?
From light brown to black, its texture from straight to curvy, which is the same mixture found in earlier and later populations of the Nile Valley. As anthropological analysis served to underline, the Badarians were of the same racial mix as the ancient Egyptians who would follow them. And now, we come to the most famous or well-known of the pre-dynastic cultures of Egypt, the Naqada, also pronounced Nagada. Named after a town 140 miles El Badari, the culture that emanated from this area
You said something?
No, that was Ruben.
Oh, okay.
near the
Say something, Ruben?
Nagada, Naga, just, saw that rung a bell right quick.
Okay. Yeah.
6,000 years ago, helped to lay the foundation of what would become the Old Kingdom of Egypt. The Naqada culture occupied a relatively vast geographic region, of which the three most prominent sites were Naqada, Abydos, and Hierakonpolis. As far as we know, the majority of residents at these and other Naqada sites lived in oval, windowless huts. More than simply a dwelling, these simple structures protected their inhabitants against the scorching desert heat and was where many daily activities were carried out. All sorts of objects have been found inside these dwellings, including cooking pots, vases, flint knives, mace heads, and various figurines made of clay or ivory. Between the years 3,500 to 3000 BC, the Naqada culture...
Please. Okay, God, mine. Now, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us in the den and all that. I appreciate that, but how am I confusing myself, family? Can you please jump on the link and explain? Or you just want to just be in the chat just saying stuff to shock, like shock value? Like, what is you missing? How is it confusing that y'all say everything started in Kemet, and then we're showing you all the things that we're going to show you all the things that they borrowed from all these other cultures. Borrowed. You didn't come up with this. You didn't come up with that and this and that. Later on in this video, when I break it down, brother. So I don't know what you're talking about, God mine, but welcome to the goddamn on den. Let's go, Karima, please. Please.
God mine always saying something negative as soon as he comes through the door.
Right.
Culture spread from the Nile Delta in the north to the borders of what would later be known as Nubia. By this time, the early Egyptians had long given up their nomadic ways, with most living in relatively large villages and tending to farms. Trade contacts were further strengthened with peoples as far away as Iran and Central Asia, and perhaps indirectly.
You hear that? Trade contacts. So that means that they were learning different culture, different techniques, different ways to do agriculture. Just different, how to make different tools, how to make different pots. They didn't come up with everything. That's my whole point of showing you guys this. But they want to give you the impression that everything came from Kemet, and that's not true. That's the main reason why I'm doing this.
India. Nakada sculpture and pottery from this time period shows a style and sophistication that was both unique to Egypt, but also clearly influenced from abroad.
Influence from abroad. These are key words that you need to hear and listen to that Shakka Atmose is not going to say. JJ7000. Here, let me see. Here you go again.
Nakada sculpture and pottery from this time period shows a style and sophistication that was both unique to Egypt, but also clearly influenced from abroad.
A style and sophistication that was influenced from abroad. A style and sophistication. They said there were some things that were unique, but they also said that they were influenced from abroad, the style and sophistication. Sophisticated.
Though modest in comparison with what was to come, Egypt's first temples start to appear around this time, many of which were built with plastered walls that were painted. Copper, gold, and silver objects also became very popular and were used extensively for jewelry and weapons. Many of these luxury objects have been found in select graves, which indicates that Nakada society was hierarchical and contained an elite ruling class. As you may have guessed, many of these practices were incorporated into the Egyptian civilization of the early dynastic period and beyond. Despite all of their achievements, little can be confirmed about the nature of Nakkadan society. As writing in Egypt was still several centuries in the future, we don't have any records of any specific people, political events, religious practices, or other aspects of Nakkadan society. What we do have, though, are sizable structures, several of them which seem to have influenced the Egypt that was to come. In 1985, American archaeologists at Heracleopolis discovered an oval courtyard over 100 feet in length and with a sloping, mud-plastered floor. Started around 3500 BC, the court was extended over the next few centuries and surrounded by a group of buildings. One side had workshops and storerooms, where pieces of flint tools and fragmented gemstones clearly indicated that craftsmen had cut and polished carnelian, obsidian, and crystals, possibly for jewelry, or to be inlaid in fine furniture. The archaeologist who discovered the oval courtyard was Michael Hoffman, and he quickly recognized the links between it and some of the later architecture that would be characteristic of pharaonic Egypt. Not too far from the oval court was a cemetery with some 460 graves that held the remains of about...
All right, now it's going to get interesting. Put the little kids to bed because it might be some graphic things that you might not want them to see at this particular stage in their life.
500 people. Some believe that these may have been what's left of the oval court's attendants or servants. Unlike those of some of the more common graves, it's apparent from studying the bones of those who were interred here that they lived relatively healthy lives, free of hard labor. Most of them seem to have lived well into their 50s. Though these tombs were robbed, some items, such as knives among the men and jewelry along with bags of herbs and garlic for the women, still remained. Of course, not everyone was so fortunate enough to die in such a way. Not too far from the oval court, at other Nakkadan sites, are plenty of cemeteries whose occupants' lives ended violently. There's a lot that one can learn about how these people may have lived and ultimately perished from examining their remains. These show that many of them were brutally bludgeoned to death, while others had knife cuts slashed through their bones. Some of them had their scalps cut and then torn off their heads.
I mean, just brutal.
Broken limbs and shattered bones from mace blows are common. It appears that most of the aggressors were right-handed, and that the position of the victims' heads may have been held steady in order to strike them.
Now look at that.
Images of such violence also appear in the artwork of the time. Again, without writing, it's not known who these men and women were. They could have been prisoners of war or sacrificial victims. All that we can really confirm is that they suffered a brutal death.
Brutal!
There are plenty of other Nakkadan grave sites, most of those buried within them being farmers. For all their achievements and flaws, the people of the Nakada culture set the foundation for one of the greatest continuous civilizations of antiquity. And I'm sure that you know exactly which civilization I'm talking about. We'll take a closer look at this civilization and more in an upcoming program. As always, thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you learned something or simply just enjoyed the video, please don't hesitate to hit that like button because it helps the channel out a lot. Also, check out the history.
All right.
There's something else they ain't mentioned up in there. Nap the player, you know what I'm saying? Nap the player go back 7,500 years. And anybody trying to put Egypt first is basically putting the cart before the horse.
Uh-huh. All right, hold up. We got the Lions Den People Champion in the building, Corey TKO Dawson. What's going on, my brother? Shout out to Sister Barbara forwarded in the audience, Sister April. April, you did your thing on Sign of the TV. We appreciate you representing. Go ahead, Corey.
Peace, peace, peace. What's the deal, everybody? Shout out to you, JJ7000, and shout out to Karima and the Lions Den. Peace to my sister April in the building, and Barbara before. Peace to her too, also in the building.
All right. So, did you see most of the video, Corey?
No, I had just got off work.
Oh, you just got off work? Well, you know, basically I was just showing, you know, there's other cultures that in early pre-dynastic times that got a lot of their influences outside of that area and from different other cultures that was from Western Asia. And that's very important because the people need to know that everything just didn't start in Kemet. I got an article I want to read. Champ, Ruben, did you want to say anything or you cool for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I ain't seen no lies yet, you know what I'm saying? So you could go ahead and read that article.
Okay. Let's see. Where's that? Just doing that. All right. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, cool. All right. This is Egypt and Mesopotamia relations. It says Egypt and Mesopotamia relations were the relation between the civilizations of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in the Middle East. They seem to have developed from the 4th millennium BCE, starting in the Uruk period for Mesopotamia. That's between 4,000 and 3,100 BCE. And the half a millennium younger, the Gerzium culture or prehistoric Egypt, which is 3,500 to 3,200 BC, and constitute a largely one-way body of influences from Mesopotamia into Egypt. You see, these influences a lot of influence came from outside of Egypt, and this is what they're not telling you when they go live on House of Consciousness. You know, prior to Pacific Mesopotamian influence, there had already been a long-standing influence from West Asia into Egypt. It's telling you this right now. Prior to Pacific Mesopotamian influence, there had already been a long-standing influence, Shakka, from West Asia into Egypt, North Africa, and even into some parts of the Horn of Africa. In the Sahel, in the form of the Neolithic Revolution. And the Neolithic Revolution is the first agricultural revolution. It was a wide-scale transition of many human cultures during the Neolithic period, from the lifestyles of hunting and gathering to one of agriculture and settlement, making an increasingly large population possible. Yeah, I don't know if y'all can see that little map, but there it is right there. Okay, from the circa 9,000 BCE. See? From 9000 BCE, diffused advanced agricultural practices and technology, gene flow, certain animals and possible Proto-Afro-Asiatic languages into the region. Mesopotamian influence can be seen in the visual arts of Egypt. But let Shakka tell it, everything started there. See, he's doing selective research. I know if he's supposed to be the researcher that he claimed to be, I know he's seen this. See, Mesopotamian influence can be seen in the visual arts of Egypt, in architecture, in technology, weaponry, in imported products and livestock, and also in the likely transfer of writing from Mesopotamia. Teach these niggas how to write, possibly. That's what it's saying. It just says possibly and likely the transfer of writing from Mesopotamia to Egypt. Let's go to the source with number 4 where it says this. That's an earliest Egyptian glyphs, archaeologically. Right there. Kareem, stop right there. Please and thank you. Stephen Clyde, all after this article, I'm going to read you where you can find the source and references of what I got. They got numbers by it. Wikipedia is okay. It leads you to the direction of the books, the news articles, all that, bro. What you talking about, Willis? Let's go, Sister Kareem, please and thank you. Institute of America, retrieved February 12th, 2012. That's by Mitchell Larkin. Y'all can look that book up. It's right here. Earliest Egyptian glyphs. All right. And generated deep-seated parallels in the early stages of both cultures. Okay? All right. So it said that there are generally a high level of trade between ancient Egypt and the Near East throughout pre-dynastic period of Egypt during the Naqada II period. That's in 3600 to 3350 BCE. And in Naqada III, 3350 to 2950 BCE. And that'll come from A Companion to Ancient Egypt by Melinda Hartwig, page 424 to 425. These were contemporary with the late Uruk, 3600 to 3100 BCE. The Uruk period existed from the proto-historic Chalcolithic, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Chalcolithic to early Bronze Age period in the history of Mesopotamia. After the Ubaid period and before the Jemdet Nasser period, named after the Sumerian city of Uruk. This period saw the emergence of urban life in Mesopotamia and Sumer. All right. So the main period of cultural influence, particularly consisting in the transfer of Mesopotamian imagery, symbols, and technology to Egypt, is considered to have lasted 250 years during the Naqada II to dynasty periods. And here goes the source for that. Number 8, the study of ancient Near East in the 21st century, the William Foxtel Albright Centennial Conference, page 15. All right, let's keep it moving. Anybody got anything to say before I keep reading, or we can keep it going?
That kind of ties back into a biblical character that they like to overlook that Bible, but it's an integral part in that history. You know what I'm saying? Because you had a biblical character, Nimrod. Right. You know what I'm saying? And and they like to overlook that. And a lot of these influences could be traced directly back to him and his culture and, you know, and his folks. And he would be kin to the fathers of who became the Israelites. You know what I'm saying? This is one family, and they inhabited all of those areas, and people like to overlook that and downplay, and they like to downplay the significance of Hebrew Israelite culture and the culture of their ancestors and the Cushites and the Cushite culture and their ancestors, you know what I'm saying, and just point directly to Egypt as being the beginning. But when they do that, like I said, they're putting the cart before the horse.
Right. Corey, you still on?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to add anything to it, or you good?
I'm good for right now.
Okay. All right. Now, design and objects. It says distinctly foreign objects and art forms entered Egypt during this period, indicating contacts with several parts of Western Asia. The designs that were emulated by Egyptian artists are numerous. The Uruk priest king, which his tunic and brimmed hat in the posture of the master of animals. Right here on the screen, the master of animals, lord of the animal, mistress of the animals, is a motif in ancient art showing a human between and grasping two confronted animals. The motif is very widespread in the art of the ancient Near East and Egypt. The figure may be a female or male. Also in the serpotoids is a mythical animal known from ancient Egypt and Mesopotamian art. The word serporoid is a modern coinage. It is a portmanteau or serpent and leopard, derived from the interpretation that the creature represents an animal with the body of a leopard and long neck and head. All right, and how about winged griffins? The griffin or griffin is a legendary creature with the body, tail, and back legs of a lion, the head and wings of an eagle, and sometimes eagle's talons in the front feet, because the lion was traditionally considered the king of the beasts and the eagle the king of the birds. Snakes around rosettes, boats, and high prows, all characteristics of long-established Mesopotamian art and late Uruk period. You see, Uruk the Fourth, 3,350 to 3,200 BCE period. The same priest king is visible in several older Mesopotamian works and arts at the end of the Uruk period, such as the Balau monuments, cylinder seals, and statues. Then the Balau monuments are a pair of inscribed stone objects from Mesopotamia, now in the British Museum, that are commonly thought to be from the ancient Kurduru. Right? So hold on, here go a picture of this, some more right here that I skipped right here. The Mesopotamian king and master of the animals, y'all can see right here. And then the Egyptian prehistory, the right here, the Gebel Arak knife. Also, the Jebel El Arak knife is an ivory and flint knife dating from the Naqada period of Egyptian prehistory, showing Mesopotamian influence. Shaka. The knife was purchased in 1914 in Cairo by George Aaron Benedict. That's the guy that probably stole it, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But as you can see, these people who lived in this area were influenced by a lot of outsiders. So, Shaka, when you're saying that a lot of things that started there, you would have to come with some kind of proof. You have to say, no, this is 100% started here. Writing, this pottery, the language, the literature. You can't say that literature wasn't influenced by other cultures. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. Objects such as the Gabel El Ankh knife handle, which I just showed you, which was patently Mesopotamian relief carvings on it. It has been found in Egypt. And the silver, which appears in this period, can only be obtained from Asia Minor. But let them tell it. Everything started in Kemet. Let's go to the Mesopotamian style pottery in Egypt, 3,500 BCE. Shaka. Red spotted pottery items dating from around 3,500 BCE. That's Naqada too, which were probably used for pouring water, beer, and wine, suggests that Egypt was in contact and being influenced by the Mesopotamia around that time. Influence is a key word. It's like want to be like. Like when I put on my George, you want to be like Mike, you're influenced by him. It doesn't mean that you started it. It means you were being influenced by the Mesopotamia around them. And here go the source for that. Here we go. Before the Pyramids, the origin of Egyptian civilization. I bet you that's a great book by the Oriental Institute of University of Chicago, page 166. Chris Harris. Shakka, Jabari, Smash Rockwell, any of you Hotep mummies, you're going to get it tonight. Now, this type of pottery was manufactured in Egypt with Egyptian clay, but its shape, particularly the spout, is certainly Mesopotamian in origin. So now they biting other styles, y'all. They biting other styles. Hold up. Hold on for 1 second. All right. I'm sorry, I had to take a call. All right. Y'all still there?
Yeah.
All right, appreciate y'all. All right. So as you can see, even it said evolution of Egyptian prehistoric pottery styles from Nakata 1 to Nakata 2 and Nakata 3 with Mesopotamian style Nakata 2 straight spouted jars in 3,500 BC. If they came up with everything, why they copying from the Mesopotamian in their style? What the hell's going on, Shakka? Okay, hold on. Let's keep going. Now, such vessels were new and rare in pre-dynastic Egypt, but had been commonly manufactured in Mesopotamian cities. See, this is old stuff in Mesopotamia. See, that is new and happening in Egypt. That means that they copied or somebody brought it to them. They didn't come up with everything. That means that these two cultures are very close to be doing trade and commerce. All right. Now, this indicated that the Egyptians were familiar with Mesopotamian types of pottery. We can find that in Before the Pyramids of the Origins of Egyptian Civilization by Emily Teeter. The discovery of these vessels initially encouraged and developed the development of the dynastic race theory, according to which Mesopotamians would have established the first pharaonic line. Oh, God. But okay, hold on. But it's now considered by many scholars to be simply indicative of cultural influence and borrowing circa 3,500 BC. Although there is an established gene flow from Mesopotamia and West Asia into Egypt. There's a gene flow. That's in the same book, Emily Teeter, Before the Pyramids. All right. Now, these sprouted jars of Mesopotamian design started to appear in Egypt in the Nakata 2 period. Various Uric pottery vases and containers have been found in Egypt, Nakata context, confirming that Mesopotamian finished goods were imported into Egypt, although the past contents of the jars have not been determined yet. Scientific analysis of ancient wine jars and abydos have shown that there's some type of high volume of wine trade from the Levant and Mesopotamia during this period. That's in number 15. That's in Ancient Civilizations, page 106 by Chris Scary. All right, let's keep going. All right, adoption of Mesopotamian style mace heads. Okay, now these are the mace heads over here, right here. Egyptian disc-shaped mace heads. Now these were adopted from the Mesopotamians. It said Egyptians used traditional disc-shaped mace heads during the early phase of Nakata culture from 4,000 to 3,400 BCE. At the end of the period, the disc-shaped mace head was replaced by the military superior Mesopotamian-style pear-shaped mace head, as seen on the Narmer pilot. Even the Narmer pilot, they was biting stuff. You see, Shaka? Why didn't you tell us this? This is what we call dishonest scholarship. I'm sure you read about this. You didn't want to bring this out. You wanted to bring out everything else, but you're not going to bring this out. See?
Right, and we've been telling them Norma for the longest. You know what I'm saying? Norma would have been a Cushite, and that would tie directly back to Nimrod, who was ruling Mesopotamia. You know what I'm saying? Which gives credence to the biblical story. So you can't throw the Bible away. You can't rule it out, man, because it's of vast importance once you take it in the context with the actual facts. You know what I'm saying? You gotta study that Bible, man, in order to put the whole story together.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now it says the Mesopotamian Macehead was much heavier and with a wider impact surface and was capable of giving much a more damaging blow than the original Egyptian disc-shaped Macehead. Here they are over here. Y'all can see my tracer. All right, let's go to cylinder seals. It is generally thought that cylinder seals were introduced from Mesopotamia to Egypt during the Nakata II period. So they're bringing stuff over to you that you didn't know nothing about. See, cylinder seals, some coming from Mesopotamia and also Elam. Those of you who don't know who Elam is, Elam was an ancient civilization centered far west and southwest of modern-day Iran, stretching from the lowlands of what is now Kurdistan and Elam province, as well as a smaller part of southern Iraq. The modern name Elam stems from the Sumerian translation Elam. All right. Now, and in ancient Iran, you see, and some made locally in Egypt, copying. Now look at that, copying early in Mesopotamian and Elamite designs. So now you're copying from the Elamites. Shaka, I know you to study cylinder steels and pottery and stuff like that. I know you came across this information, but you ain't gonna tell nobody like Sharnetta because that would mess up the narrative over there that everything comes from Kemet. You see, they want to dismiss Mesopotamia, but without Mesopotamia, there would be a lot of things that you guys, that you so-called Kemetics, quote unquote, wouldn't have.
Right, and Europe popped up a whole lot of times in what you've covered so far. Europe popped up, and it's a certain biblical character whose homeland that was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Abraham was from Ur the Chaldees. You know what I'm saying? So that, like I said, you can't throw the Bible away. That's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Teach, champ. All right. Now, okay, what was that? Okay, Mesopotamia, Elam. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right, here we go. Locally in Egypt, copying. You got them Kemetics copying, folks. Copying early Mesopotamian and Elamite designs in a stylized manner. See, they just stole their stylized manner, y'all. They can't even come up with their own. And then these stylized manners have been discovered in the tombs of Upper Egypt, dating to the Nakata 2 and 3, particularly in Hierakonpolis. Hope I pronounced that right. And then now you can find that in a comparison to ancient Egypt art by Melinda K. Hartwig and John Wiley and Sons, page 424 and 425. Let's keep on with the lesson. Now, Mesopotamian cylinder seals have been found in Gerzium. Now, I don't know where that is, but we're going to be about to find out where it is with this. Now, the Gerzian culture is also called Nakata 2. Okay, they taught me something. The Gerza culture, also called Nakata 2, refers to the archaeological stage at Gerza, a prehistoric Egyptian cemetery located along the west bank of the Nile. The necropolis is named after El Gerza, a nearby contemporary town of Egypt. Now, I said these seals have been found in Gerzon in the Nakata 2 period, in the Nakata, and Hiwi, Hiw, Hu, a modern name of an Egyptian town on the Nile. All right, which is in the 7th nome, attesting to the expansion of the Mesopotamian. It's testing to the expansion of the Mesopotamian, the Jednat Nasser culture as far as Egypt at the end of the 4th millennium BCE. You see? And that's from Sticks and Stones and Shadows, Building the Egyptian Pyramid. University of Oklahoma Press, page 33. You see? Now, in Egypt, cylinder seals suddenly appear without any local antecedents, I can't pronounce that, from around Nakata, 3,500 to 3,300 BCE. The designs are similar to and clearly inspired by those of Mesopotamia, where they were invented. Well, y'all getting killed during the early 4th century millennium BCE, during the Uruk period, as an evolutionary step from various accounting systems. You know, accounting system is a computer program that maintains account books and computers, but they didn't have that back then. And seals going back as early as the 7th millennium BCE in Mesopotamia. They even get their accounting systems from Mesopotamia, y'all. You see? The earliest Egyptian cylinder seals are clearly similar to earlier and contemporary Uruk seals down to Nakata II, circa 3,300 BCE. And may even been manufactured by Mesopotamian craftsmen. See? And subsequently sold to the Egyptians. Let them tell it. If they find it over there, buried over there, they came up with it, y'all. You see? But they start to diverge from circa 3,300 BCE to become more Egyptian in character. See, now they want to put their own little style on it, you know. Take off the Jordan symbol and put a Puma symbol on it or something. That's what they did. Now, cylinder seals were made in Egypt as late as the 2nd intermediate period, which, if nobody knows what that is, that's between 17,000 to 1,550 BCE. It marks the period when ancient Egypt was broken into smaller dynasties for the second time between the end of the Middle Kingdom and the start of the New Kingdom. These dynasties that ruled during the 2nd intermediate. All right, but they were essentially replaced by scarabs. Scarabs are these beetle-shaped amulets and impression seals, which were widely popular throughout Egypt. They still survive in large numbers still today through their inscriptions and typology. They proved to be an important source of information for archaeologists and historians in the ancient world. All right, now let's see what else they didn't bit from other folks, man. Other objects and designs. Shakka, so you didn't tell us about all this, but I know you've seen this before. You know, you claim you just great researcher. I know you had to look it up. Now, lapis lazuli, or lapis is for short, is a deep blue metamorphic rock used as a semi-precious stone that has been prized since antiquity for its intense color. As early as the 7th millennium BC, was mined in Shurgur and in other mines in Baghdadistan. And then this was imported in great quantity to Egypt and already used in many tombs of the Nakata II period. You know, and it originated in what's today northern Afghanistan. As no other sources are known, and had to be transported across the Iranian plateau to Mesopotamia, as far as the established Mesopotamian trade network from South Central Asia, and from there sold only by the Mesopotamians. In addition, Egyptian objects were created with clearly mimic Mesopotamian forms. See that? They mimicking everything, y'all. Well, let Shakka tell it, they was originated of piss. You know? See, cylinder cells appeared in Egypt as well as recessed paneling architecture. The Egyptian reliefs on cosmetic palais are clearly made in the same style as the earlier and contemporary Mesopotamia Uruk culture. See? And the ceremonial mace heads, which turned up from the late Gerzian and earlier Sumerian, are crafted in Mesopotamia. Now, the Sumerian is Nakata III, and it's the last phase of the Nakata culture of ancient Egyptian prehistory, dating approximately 3,200 to 3,000 BC. and it is the period during which the process state formation, which began in the Nakata II, became highly visible with name kings heading powerful politics. All right. So the first man-animal composite creature in Egypt was directly copied from earlier Mesopotamian designs. Now they talk about the anthropomorphic. How you pronounce that?
Anthropomorphic figure.
Thank you. Anthropomorphic figures. It says the first man-animal composite creature in Egypt was directly copied. Man, y'all getting your head bugged. Just chopped off and kicked down the street. The first man-animal composite creature in Egypt was directly copied from earlier Mesopotamian design. Here goes the source right here. The study of ancient Near East in the 21st century, the William Foxwell Albright Centennial Conference, page 20. That's by William Foxwell Albright, 1996. They're getting beat up. It's also considered as certain that the Egyptians adopted, which is another word of copied, from Mesopotamia, the practice of making and sealing jars, which engraved the cylinder seals for informational purposes. Wow. That's in the same book. All right. Oh, man. Don't tell me they didn't copy the temples and pyramids. Oh, my goodness. I mean, what? Kim, we got a problem. Egyptian agriculture was also influenced as it adopted various elements of earlier Mesopotamian temples and civic architecture. Wow. And as you can find that in the Mediterranean context of early Greek history by John Wiley and Sons, page 71. It says recessed niches in particular, which are characteristic of Mesopotamian temple architecture, were adapted for the design of false doors in the tombs of the first and second dynasty. Christine Harris, I know you peeking around. You need to be peeking around and finding out who the milkman is. Which one is it? Now let's get back to it. It says, false doors and tombs was copied from the Mesopotamian architecture and their culture. Shaka, this is why you don't really want to see me in a discussion. I don't debate no more, so you ain't got to worry about that. But just bringing this information out, we seem like we should be able to have a discussion, an honest discussion, and you should be able to admit, well, you know what? Everything didn't start there. There were influences from the outside. Admit that. That's because it's your ego. You have an agenda. Now, it is unknown if the transfer of the design was a result of Mesopotamian builders and architects in Egypt, or if temple design on imported Mesopotamian seals may have been a sufficient source of inspiration, y'all, for Egyptian architects to manage themselves. They've been inspired and inspired and all type of stuff going on. All right. And you can find that in the Mediterranean context of early Greek history by John Wiley and Sons, page 71. Now, the design of the ziggurat, which appears in Mesopotamia in the late 5th millennium BCE, was clearly a precursor to an influence of an Egyptian pyramid. Oh my God, they can't even come up with their own pyramids. Especially the step design, the oldest pyramid, the step pyramid, the earliest of the pyramid of Zoser at Saqqara. That dates at 2000 BCE. Go ahead, Ruben.
That's a design you find from Mesopotamia to West Africa.
Damn right. Yep. So, I mean, this was well over 2,000 years younger than Mesopotamian ziggurat-style pyramids. You see that? All right, and that source here, I'm going to pop them up for you. The step design of pyramids at Zoser at Saqqara, the oldest known period along the Nile, suggests that it was borrowed from the Mesopotamian ziggurat concept. Jabari, Shakka and Duga, Shakka Atmose, and All you Hotep mummies, did you read this? And that's the Middle East pattern, student economy edition, places, people, and politics. Page 63. And here you go right here. You can see the original Mesopotamia, a new. So y'all done stole that too, probably. The word anew. They stole anew. Ain't nothing original about these cats, man. They want to sit here and try to pull the wool over our eyes when they get in front of the goddamn camera.
No side bless.
We know better.
Straight.
See, now the original Mesopotamia, a new ziggurat dates around 4000 BCE, with the period of the Djoser, the first Egyptian pyramids, they said 2670 to 2650 BCE. And 1,400,000 years younger. The original period structure of Mesopotamia, a new ziggurat, dates around 4000 BCE, and the White Temple was built on top of Sakuri, 3,500 BC. The design of the ziggurat was probably a precursor of the Egyptian pyramids. The earliest of the dates is circa 2,600 BCE. Shaka. Abraham comes from these areas, Mesopotamia, and all this type of area. So you see, we see where we get our stuff. You see? Now, the route of this trade, transmission, y'all, the route of this trade is difficult to determine, but direct Egyptian contact with Canaan in the Levant does not predate the early dynastic area. So it's usually assumed to have been a sea trade. During the time of the dynastic race theory, we'll see what that is, dynastic race theory. That was the earliest thesis to attempt to explain how pre-dynastic Egypt developed into a sophisticated dynastic Egypt. The theory holds that the earliest roots of the ancient Egyptian dynastic civilization was imported by invaders from Mesopotamia. This is over. Shut it down. Go back home and try again. They got a dynastic race theory where it says that the earliest, what did it say? The ancient Egyptian dynastic civilization was imported by invaders. Was still popular. It was proposed that the Mesopotamian sailors circumnavigated Arabia, but a Mediterranean route, probably by a middleman through the Canaanite port of Byblos, is also likely, as evidenced by the presence of Canaanite Babylon objects in Egypt. See, they get influenced by everybody, y'all. Don't let them fool you. All you got to do is pick up a book. Pick up a Wikipedia where it got all the references and sources and books that you need to guide you in the right direction, and don't listen to people with a 10th grade education like Shakka almost finished high school. All right? We're not going to do that. Yeah.
Rock out, JJ. I got to get out of here, man. I got a long day ahead of me tomorrow. Shout out to the Lions Den.
Yeah.
Shout out to Naga, the Bar Reloaded, our pool crew, King Naga in the building. I represent the Lions Den well. The Lions Den heavyweight debate champ in the building. JJ, dropping them bombs, flying them B-52s over, man. I'm out.
Man. All right, champ. All right, now let's continue with the presentation. Do you ever know those guys like Chris Harris, guys like that? They don't bring nothing to the table. They ain't gonna teach you nothing. They just gonna cry and complain. Oh, well, Jesus never existed. You know, guys, Jesus never existed. That's a logical fallacy to the third degree. Shut up. Now, it says, now these glyptic art is also seen to have played a key role through the circulation of decorated cylinder seals across the Levant. See, a common hinterland of both empires, particularly Mesopotamia. You can find that in the study of ancient Near East in the 21st century by William Foxworth Albright Centennial Conference, page 13. You see. Now, the intensity of the exchange suggests, however, that the contacts between Egypt and Mesopotamia were often direct rather than merely through middlemen or through trade. So there were direct contact between the two. Let Shakka tell it. Everything started in Kemet. Everything except they gave God Seth. Now they want to give us Seth, y'all. But we already know that Seth was worshipped and they had temples for him in pre-dynastic Egypt. Well, maybe not temple. If they worship him, they probably had some kind of temple for him. I'm not 100% with the temples. They worship. All right. So Uruk has been known a colonial outpost as far as Hababa Kabria, okay, in modern Syria, ensuring their presence in the Levant. Numerous Uruk seals have also been uncovered there. There have been suggestions that Uruk may have been a colonial outpost and a form of a colonial presence in northern Egypt. The site of Bukto is particular was suggested, but has been as a possible candidate. The fact is that so many Gurzian sites, which that's Nakata 2, are at the mouths of wadis. What's wadis? Wadi eternally is a North African Arabic term traditionally referring to the valley. In some instances, it may refer to a wet riverbed that contains water only when heavy rain occurs, okay? Which led to the Red Sea. And it may indicate some amount of the trade via Red Sea, okay? Now, but Babylonian trade particularly could have crossed the Sinai and been taken to the Red Sea. And Biblia is also known as Jebel, is a city of Kurswan Jebel Governorate or Lebanon. It is believed to have been the first occupied between 8,800 and 7,000 BC and continues inhabited since 5,000 BC, making it one of the oldest continuous inhabited cities of the world. That's in Lebanon. That's in the Levant. All right. Now, so they want to discredit that and not show the importance of the Levant. You see. But anyway, the Babylonian trade potentially could have crossed from the Sinai and then been taken to the Red Sea. Also, it is considered unlikely that something is as complicated as recessed panel architecture could have worked its way into Egypt by proxy, and a possible significant contingent of Mesopotamia migrants or settlers is often suspected. These early contexts probably acted as a sort of catalyst for the development of Egyptian culture. Let me say that one more time. These early contexts probably acted as some sort of catalyst, some kind of springboard is what a catalyst is for development of an Egyptian culture, Shakka, particularly in respect of the inception of writing. Y'all in some goddamn trouble. The codification of royal and vernacular imagery and architectural innovations. Did y'all hear what I just said? You can find that in the comparison to ancient Egypt art. Let me read that for you one more time. The early context probably acted as some kind of catalyst for the development of Egyptian culture, particularly in the respect of the inception of writing, the codification of royal and vernacular imagery, and architectural innovations. You understand? And, you know, it's showing some of the things. The Egyptian palace, such as the Narmer palace, borrow elements of Mesopotamian iconography, in particular the Sarcophagus design of Uruk. You understand? That right there. This right here, the double snakes. You see? How about the beads of lapis lazuli? That came from their Mesopotamian culture. Look. Remember they talking about their little Oscar come from? No, this statue come from Mesopotamia. Your little fake Oscar thing talking about they stole the Oscar thing from y'all. Look. Material thought to have been important through Mesopotamia from Afghanistan. Here go the source right here. The Mediterranean concept of early Greek history. See? Let's keep it moving. How about the Egyptian necklace and pendant using lapis lazuli imported from Afghanistan, possibly by Mesopotamian trade in Nakata 2. Nakata 2 is 3,500 BCE. Keep moving, man. They're getting their head cracked. So, Shaka, you're getting your head cracked. Now, the importance of local Egyptian developments. Okay, now watch this. It says, while there is clear evidence of the Nakata culture borrowed abundantly from Mesopotamia, there is also commonly held view that many other achievements from later First Dynasty were also the result of a long period of indigenous culture and political development. Such developments are much older than the Nakata II period. The Nakata II period has been large degree of continually with the Nakata I period, and the changes which did happen during the Nakata periods happened over significant amounts of time. All right. Although there are many examples of now watch this, y'all. Although there are many examples of Mesopotamian influence in Egypt in the 4th millennium BCE, the reverse is not true. And there are no traces of Egyptian influence in Mesopotamia. And I say one more time, there's no traces of Egyptian influence in Mesopotamia at any time. Clearly indicating a one-way flow of ideas. Man, y'all getting destroyed. Because the reverse is not true, namely, there is no trace of Egyptian presence in Mesopotamia at the time, all seems to point to the flow of ideas from Mesopotamia to Egypt. This is why Shaka don't want to see me. This is why they kicked me off the show. I'm not the one to be playing with. Now, only a few Egyptian Nakata period objects have been found beyond Egypt. And generally, it is in the vicinity of such as rare Nakata 3 Egyptian cosmetic palette in the shape of a fish at the end of the 4th millennium BC, found in Ashkelon or Gaza. You know, they ain't doing nothing. Now, the current position of modern scholarship is that Egyptian civilization was an indigenous Nile Valley development, and that the archaeological evidence strongly supports an African origin or other of the ancient Egyptians. See, now these modern scholars have switched it up. It said the current position of modern scholarship is that the Egyptian civilization was an indigenous Nile Valley development. Now, we just seen all this evidence of all the copying, and now these new jack scholars want to say something different. Let's go to the development of writing. Now, development of writing 3,500 to 3,200 BCE. It is generally thought that the Egyptian hieroglyphs came into existence a century or so after Sumerian script. It is generally thought that the Egyptian hieroglyphs came into existence a century or so after the Sumerian script and were probably invented under the influence of the latter. And that it is probable that the general idea of expressing words of the language in writing was brought to Egypt from Sumerian Mesopotamia. The two writing systems are in fact quite similar in the integral stages, relying heavily on photographic forms, and even and then evolving a. I mean, they just getting destroyed, man. If y'all just really paying attention, you know, I know I'm a little animated, a little funny with it, but that's just to keep y'all alert, keep you interested. But man, they getting beat up. You know, could put some of the comments in the audience up there. Shout out to Elder Yara, shout out to Judah Nazareth, Dominique Lavelle, I Am Manna, Set the Record Straight. You know what I'm saying? You got to scroll up to there's some good ones that you scroll back up, Karima. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, they're getting beat up. Writing, agriculture, pottery, motifs, everything. Pyramid styles, everything. They're getting beat up. So I'm trying to figure out what is you going to bring to this debate that's just so unique and so original to Kemet, besides maybe your little Ridge, Seth, and horror story. That's it. Let's keep it moving, Kareem. Please and thank you. Parallel system for the expression of phonetic sounds. And that's a comparison to ancient Egypt art by Melinda Hartwig. That's very important what I just read, because they overlook this when they're doing their presentations and discussions and trying to influence you to thinking that everything starts in Kemet. So we're going to read that one more time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It says, it is generally thought that the Egyptian hieroglyphs came into existence a century or so after Sumerian script. What is Sumerian script, ladies and gentlemen? It is cuneiform. It is a logo, some syllabic script. Chris Harris, Shakka Atmose, Jabari, Shaka Ndugu, Smash Rockwell, Unc West, or any of you other Hotep monies out there listening. Cuneiform is a logo syllabic script that was used to write several languages in the ancient Middle East. This script was an active use form from the early Bronze Age until the beginning of the Common Era. It is named for the characteristic wedge-shaped impressions, which is forms and signs. But that whole century before Egyptian hieroglyphs, ladies and gentlemen, a whole century. And were probably invented under the influence of the latter. And when we say the latter, we're speaking of the Sumerians. And that is probable to the general idea of expressing words of the language in writing that was brought to Egypt from Sumerian Mesopotamia. Here goes the source right here. The International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. Look at that. By Jeffrey W. Bromley. The two writing systems are in fact quite similar in their initial stages, relying heavily on pictogrammic forms and then evolving a parallel system for the expression of phonetic sounds. Standard reconstruction of the development of writing generally placed the development of the Sumerian proto-cuneiform script before the development of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. This over. This over. This is why they don't want to see me. This is why they say, JJ, you can't talk too long because you're going to be bringing out too many goddamn facts. We better hurry up and shut this guy up. Now, proto-cuneiform script before the development of Egyptian hieroglyphs with a strong suggestion the former influenced the latter. There is, however, lack of direct evidence that Mesopotamian writing influenced Egyptian form, and no definitive determination has been made as to the origin of the hieroglyphics in the ancient Egypt. Some scholars point that a very credible argument can also be made for independent development in the writing of Egypt. So some saying there's independent development. And we're going to see that you can find that in Egypt, Trunk of the Tree, a modern survey of ancient land. Published 2004, page 55 and 56. But since the 90s, the discovery of glyphs on clay tags at Abydos dated between 3,400 and 3,200 may challenge the classical notion according to which Mesopotamian symbols system predates the Egyptian ones. Okay? Now, although perhaps tellingly, Egyptian writing does make a sudden appearance at the time with no antecedents or precursors, while on the contrary, Mesopotamia already had a long evolutionary history of sign uses in tokens dating back to circa 8,000 BCE, followed by proto-cuneiform. Right here. The seal impressions from various tombs date even further back to 3400 BC. These dates challenge the commonly held belief that early logographs, pictographs, symbols representing a specific place, object, or quantity first evolved into a more complex phonetic symbols in Mesopotamia. Earliest Egyptian glyphs by Mitchell Larkin, Archaeological Institute of America, retrieved February 29th, 2012. So Pittman proposes that the Abydos clay tabs are almost identical to contemporary clay tabs of Uruk and Mesopotamia. You see? Egyptian scholar Gamal Munkar argued that the inventory of hieroglyphic symbols derived from Fanu and Flora used in the signs, which are essentially African, and in regards to writing, we have seen that purely Neolithic, hence African origin, not only is not excluded, but probably reflects the reality. Although he acknowledged the geographic location of Egypt may replicate for many influences. So there's a couple other people that got a couple different other theories. All right. Now, the table of Mesopotamian proto-cuneiform pictographs characters. This is what this is right here. Mesopotamian pierced label with symbol EN, meaning master. The reverse of the plaque has a symbol for goddess Inanna. That's right there. Designs of some of the labels or tokens from Abydos, carbon dated to 3,400 to 3,200. They're virtually identical from contemporary day class of Uruk and Mesopotamia. You see? So they're identical. So basically, I don't know. It seemed like they may have got this from here. All right. So, okay, let's go to this. And then we're going to get ready to wrap it up. It says the 2017 DNA genome study. In 2017, the study of the mitochondrial DNA and genome wide DNA composition of Egyptian mummies have shown a high level of affinity with the DNA of the populations of Western Asia and Anatolia. In 2017, the study of micro DNA and genome-wide DNA compositions of Egyptian mummies has shown a high level of affinity with the DNA of the populations of Western Asia and Anatolia. The study was made on mummies of Abzur el-Malek near El Fayyan. Where's El Fayyan? It is a city in Middle Egypt located 100 kilometers southwest of Cairo, which was inhabited from 3,250 BC to 700 CE. A shared drift analysis on the ancient Egyptian mummy is highest within ancient populations from the Levant and Anatolia. Why are these mummies? Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. A shared drift analysis on the ancient Egyptian mummies is highest with ancient populations from the Levant. The Levant is an approximate historical geological term referring to a large area in the eastern Mediterranean region of Western Asia and Anatolia. Anatolia is also in Asia Minor, is a large peninsula in Western Asia, and is the westernmost expansion of continental Asia. So the study was made of mummies of Abzur el-Malik near El Fayyan. Oh, my battery running low. Oh, hold on. Let me get my charger. Hold up. Hold up, y'all. All right. Gotta plug this up. Yeah, we ain't gonna let them get away with all this. Everything started in Kemet. Everything started. They don't want to give credit to where credit is due to these other cultures that was a heavy influence on that area. You gotta stop this. That's miseducation. That's not honest scholarship. You're not gonna get honest scholarship over there, Sarnetta, on your show because you protect these guys with their lies. Let their hand go. Let some of the real scholars come back at them and correct them. All right. Now, it says, what do we leave out? A shared drift analysis of the ancient Egyptian mummies is highest with ancient populations from the Levant and Anatolia, and to a lesser extent, modern populations from the Near East and the Levant. The Admister analysis and PCA shows the most affinity to ancient and modern Middle Eastern populations. Overall, the mummies studied were closely genetically to Near Easterners than the modern Egyptian, or indeed nearby Libya or Sudanese populations, who today have a greater proportion of genes, 8% more, coming from sub-Saharan Africa, which probably arrived at the Roman period. And that little bit said a lot. Overall, the mummies studied were closer genetically to Near Easterners than the modern Egyptian. These mummies. Or indeed nearby Libyan or Sudanese populations, who today have a greater proportion of genes, 8% more, coming from sub-Saharan Africa, which probably arrived after the Roman period. Hold up for 1 second. Hold up, y'all. Okay. Hold up. Let's see. All right. Okay. So where was we at? Now, the data suggests that a very high level of genetic input of Western Asia since ancient times, probably going back to pre-dynastic Egypt and as far back as Neolithic era. Our data seems to indicate close admixture and affinity at a much earlier date, which is unsurprising given the long, complex connection between Egypt and the Middle East. These connections date back to prehistory and occurred at a variety of scales, including overland and maritime commerce, diplomacy, colonization, immigration, invasion, and deportation. That's in material was copied from the source, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license. Ancient Egyptian mummies genome suggests an increase of sub-Saharan African ancestry in post-Roman periods. That's where that comes from. Okay. Our data seems to indicate, okay, I read that. All right. Now, the study stated that our genetic time transect suggests genetic continuity between the pre-Ptolemaic and Roman populations of Abishur el-Melek, indicating that foreign rule impacted the native population only to a very limited degree at the genetic level. The study authors caution that the mummies may be unrepresentative of the ancient Egyptian population as a whole. Okay. Now, Gordine, Anselin, and Kitita criticized the methodology of the Sheshamanan study and argued that the sub-Saharan genetic affinities may be attributed to the early settlers, and the relevant sub-Saharan genetic markers do not correspond with the geographic of known trade routes. Okay. All right. Well, here goes something saying Egyptian influence on Mesopotamian art. After this earlier period of exchange and direct introduction to Mesopotamian components into Egyptian culture, Egypt soon started to assert its own style from the early dynastic period, the Narmer pilot being seen as a turning point. Egypt seems to have provided some artistic feedback to Mesopotamia at the time of the early dynastic period of Mesopotamia, 2,900 to 2,334. This is especially the case of the royal iconography, the figure of the king smiting his enemies with a mace, and the depiction of dead enemies being eaten by birds or prey appeared in the Egypt from the time of the Narmer prophet, and were then adopted centuries later, possible by Egypt, by Macedonian rulers. In Natian, it was a Sumerian ruler, and also Sargon of Akkad. This depiction appears to be part of an artistic system to promote hegemonic kingship. Another example is the use of a decorated mace head as a symbol of kingship. Praise of, okay. All right. Let's read and see. All right, Hyksos period. Egyptian records various exchange with Semitic West African foreigners from around 1900 BC as the paintings of the tomb of Khnum Hotep II and Beni Hassan. From circa 1650 BC, the Hykso-Semitic foreigners of Canaan, Leviathan origin, established the 15th dynasty of Egypt. And as the Avaris in the Nile Delta, from where they ruled the northern part of the country. Cayenne, one of the Hyksos rulers, is known for a wide range of contexts as objects in his name have been found at Kossos and Hattusa, indicating diplomatic contacts with the Mannonians of Crete and the Hittites and Iranians of Anatolia. And the Sphinx with his name was brought on the art market of Baghdad and might demonstrate diplomatic contacts with the Mesopotamian states of Assyria and Babylonia, possibly the first Kassite rulers of, Gandesh. Exchanges would again flourish between the two cultures from the period of the New Kingdom Egypt, 1550 to 1069 BCE, in the Middle Assyrian Empire. The Assyrian Empire, this time, that's between 1392 to 1025 BCE. This time, in exchange between the two mature, well-established civilizations, these exchanges also include tributes of gold paid to Assyrian kings during the 15th to 16th centuries BC in an attempt to elicit their support in Egypt's conflict with the Hittite and Iranian Mitannian empires. Assyria eventually annexed much of the territory of the former and completely destroyed the latter. And the growing power of Assyria may have been a factor of Egypt's withdrawing from the Levantian colonies, which were subsequently annexed in the Middle Assyrian Empire, which came to dominate Western Asia and the Eastern Mediterranean in the 11th century BCE. Ashur-bel-Kala is known to receive tribute of exotic animals and plants from Egypt for his zoological and botanical gardens in Assar. All right. See what else they got. It's a lot. Okay, we almost done. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I read the Hyksos. The Neo-Assyrian Empire is the last phase of a historic exchange. During the Neo-Assyrian Empire, the Assyrian conquest of Egypt occurred in Assyrian rule and influence of 655 BC. After Assyria had invaded and conquered Egypt with remarkable speed, defeating and driving out Nubian Kushite Empire, the 25th dynasty of Egypt, which was provoked Assyria by repeatedly but unsuccessfully attempting to gain an influence in the southern Levant and northern Arabian Peninsula by instigating and supporting rebellions by Israelites, Judeans, Moabites, Edomites, Phoenicians, and Arabs against Assyrian rule during the reigns of Shalmaneser IV, Sargon II, and Sennacherib. The Egyptian 26th dynasty had been installed in 663 BC as native puppet rulers by the Assyrians after the destruction and deportation of the foreign Nubians of the 25th dynasty by King Esarhaddon, and then came under the dominion of the successors Ashurbanipal. However, during the fall of the Neo-Assyrian Empire between 612 to 599 BC, Egypt attempted to aid its former masters, probably due to the fear that without a strong Assyrian buffer, they too would be overrun, having already been invaded by marauding Scythians. As a result, Egypt came into conflict with Assyria, fellow Mesopotamian state of Babylonia, which with along the Medes, Persians, Chaldeans, Simians, and Scythians, amongst others, were fighting to throw off Assyrian rule. The pharaoh Necho II, I think he's the last native of Egypt, fought alongside the last Assyrian empire of Ashur Balat II, 612 to 605 BC, against Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar was the founder of the first king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire and their allies for the time. After the Assyrian Empire fell, Egypt emerged in a number of conflicts with Babylonia during the late 7th and 6th century in the Levant before being driven from the region by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. That's the last time they were driven out. All right. The last one we're going to read is the Achaemenid Empire through Iranic and not the Mesopotamia, was heavily influenced by Mesopotamia in its art, architecture, written script, and civil administration. The Persians, having previously been subjects of Assyria for centuries, invaded Egypt and established satrapies, founding the Achaemenid 27th dynasty of Egypt. So that was the Persians. And 31st dynasty of Egypt, 343 to 332. It was founded by Artaxias III, king of Persia, and this was the 31st dynasty of Egypt. All right, so that was a lot of information. I got one more article that I'm gonna read y'all, and then we're gonna call it a night. Let me see. Y'all see that? What happened? All right.
Hold on, it's freezing. Hold on.
All right, there we go. I'm back. Okay, let me present this last little bit of information. We'll call it a night. Let's see. Where is it at? Here we go. Oh man. Okay. This ain't that much. All right. The origin of Egyptian civilization. All right, by Jimmy Dunn. All right. By Jimmy Dunn. It says, what could Hitler, the German chancellor who savaged the Jews and brought the World War upon during the 20th century, had to do with our initial interpretation of the origins of Egyptian society? Quite a lot. Actually, although we must not place all the blame on him, many of his attitudes about race were a common in the early 20th century among Western colonial powers than most people realize. As Egyptology began to come into its own as a science rather than a treasure hunt after the 1890s, only then did early investigators find surviving evidence predating the pyramids. Excavations by Flinders Petrie brought to light a much older culture predating the historic First Dynasty, known from records. And at first, this material was so unfamiliar that Petrie thought it must have been left by a new race of people in the Nile Valley. However, through culturally distinct from the Egyptians of dynastic times, after further study, he determined that he had in fact discovered the remains from a prehistoric period. He and others were especially struck by the marked differences between the new pre-dynastic culture and the much better known material from the Old Kingdom and later period. The Egyptologists of the early 20th century concluded that the classic ancient Egyptian civilization had been brought to the Nile Valley by a dynastic race of invaders. You see? They believe that these invaders were both culturally and politically superior to the native prehistoric Egyptians. Y'all hear that? And that they swiftly established themselves as rulers of the country. At the time, the dubious science of cranial meteorology, that is using skull measurements to attempt to determine racial characteristics, was fashionable. It was also used to support of this superior race theory in Egypt. These superior invading people were believed to have come from a land of the east of Egypt, reflecting the widespread views that the Orient was primary source of early culture. The royal art of Egypt during the First Dynasty was thought to be similar to be found in Mesopotamia, and so many believed the earliest kings of Egypt came from present-day Iraq. In the 1930s, this theory was given further credence by Hans Winkler, a German who became well-known in Egyptology from his exploration of the Eastern Desert. There he found an abundance of ancient rock between the Nile Valley and the Red Sea. Significantly numerous images of boats were especially striking and were very similar to watercrafts found in early Mesopotamian art. However, in the early 20s, the chronology of the ancient world was still very poorly understood, and so Winkler did not know at these times that these Egyptian boats predated their Mesopotamian counterparts by many centuries. Hence, he argued that the Mesopotamians invaded Egypt by way of the Red Sea, leaving traces of their passages and rocks along the Nile River. Okay. This invasion theory was very much a product of its time. Individuals such as Hitler encountered this approach, but in fact, diffusionist theories involving superior racial groups bringing civilization to indigenous people were popular among many other colonial powers in Western Europe. At this time, Africa was known as the heart of darkness and was thought to be incapable of producing an advanced culture without outside influence. In fact, it was the defeat of Nazism that the granting of independence from many of the former European colonies in Africa that will finally drive such theories from popularity. Though invasion theories would persist among the few Egyptologists for some time, and even seen as a resurrection in popular work as late as the 1990s, most scholars abandoned their search for their foreign origins of Egyptian civilization. Today, we look for indigenous development and the roots of dynastic Egyptian culture within the Nile Valley itself, and the immediate territory surrounding the cradle of civilization. Intensive archaeological research has, after many years, have finally divulged much of prehistoric Egypt. Our understanding of Egyptian civilization can now be traced, through a long sequence of developments, 5000 BC and earlier, almost 2,000 years prior to Egypt's first dynasty. We have found even prior 500 BC evidence of a very early community of hunter-gatherers along the Nile Valley and the shores of now Lake Coram and Fayum, which we read about earlier, as well as a Paleolithic population dating back some 300,000 years. Now, our knowledge of the culture of early dynastic Egypt has also changed our view of how classic Egyptian civilizations emerged. As little as 60 years ago, and even among some popular theories of dynastic Egypt, we also know appears to have suddenly sprang from the cultural vacuum. However, like the pyramids themselves that evolved through experimentation, sometimes resulting in failures over the years. Likewise, today we can appreciate the long gestation of Egyptian culture and the fact of its roots is lie firmly within Egypt itself. This is what this guy is saying. This is what Jimmy Dunn is saying. Okay, let's keep reading. All right. However, we must recognize, as with most cultures, that Egypt was not immune to foreign influence. In fact, most successful civilizations must borrow from other cultures some technological advances, even if they produce a few themselves. Thus, it's clear that the pre-dynastic culture of Egypt was receptive to ideas from neighboring lands. Foreign archaeological and artistic motifs, and perhaps even the idea of writing, were adopted by the Egyptians at the dawn of history. However, like the chariots of the New Kingdom, which were themselves adopted from foreign sources, but modified to be lighter in order to better handle the Egyptian terrain and the Egyptians' battle tactics, all such borrowing from even earliest time from quickly fitted into the Egyptian context. Hence, there's certainly no evidence whatsoever for an invasion of dynastic conquerors. Though in ancient times, as even today, Egypt was a cultural melting pot where Africa, Asia, and Mediterranean met. The civilization that emerged in the Nile Valley simply absorbed influences from all of these areas, from Africa, other parts of Africa, from Asia, and from the Mediterranean. And all these cultures met up in Egypt. However, while the Nile civilization did not spring from foreign influence abroad, recent evidence suggests that the impetus behind this development may not have been adoption of a settled agricultural way of life, and archaeologists once thought. Rather, it would seem that it stressed a more precarious existence in the hostile environment of the dry savannas of the east and west, where now there's little but desert, may have resulted in the gradual migration of semi-nomadic cattle herders into the Nile Valley. Almost like a vacuum, the Nile Valley began to suck in these nomads as their grassland pastures dried out. And this could have also been an important stimulus to the rapid development of Egyptian civilization, forcing a large population into a much smaller area. As a side note, we should mention that the same evidence that exists to dispel more normal foreign invaders just as clearly evidences the fact that the ancient Egyptian civilization does not owe existence to Atlanteans or extraterrestrials. Such popular theories have existed for many years, but particularly since the 1960s, writers have found an eager audience for such a laughable idea. Even though these theories are flawed, usually they present high selected evidence, but not wide context of material available for us on the evaluation of Egyptian civilization. So in summary, over several thousand years, environmental changes and foreign influences molded the gradual development of a civilization that was, in the final analysis, distinctively and uniquely Egypt. In ancient Egypt, the egg was seen as a symbol of birth and resurrection. And indeed, Egypt was an egg itself, nourishing its people from within while providing a hard shell to protect them from outside hazards. As the savannas dried up and to become deserts, forcing the inhabitants into a more dense, packed population, they also created and protected these people, allowing them to incubate along the rich fertile Nile into the grand empire we find in latter times. And you see the reference and title, the Dictionary of Ancient Egypt, the Egypt Before the Pharaohs, History of the Ancient Egypt, the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt, the 70 Great Mysteries of Ancient Egypt. The different authors was Sean Ian Nicholson, published in 1995. Egypt Before the Pharaohs was Michael A. Hoffman, 1979, Barnes & Noble book. History of Ancient Egypt, A History of Ancient Egypt was by Nicholas Grimmel, 1988. Ian Shaw wrote the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt. And Bill Manley, 70 Great Mysteries of Ancient Egypt. And with that being said, like I say, my conclusion is a lot of influence were coming from outside of Egypt to build up that great culture. That being said, Shalom Barakatah, peace. All right. Like I said, man, I been on for 2 hours and 38 minutes. I hope the information was useful. When some of you guys, some of us that come from an Israelite perspective, I hope you can use this information in some of your battles to debunk their lies when they say that everything started there. Thank y'all for hanging out. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. The tournament will be jumping off here soon. We got SVDL has joined me and Black Jesus and Sal Showtime. Us four will be putting together this tournament. So stay tuned for that. We also have King Naga, the Lions Den debate champion, will be going against Takori TKO, the Lions Den People's Champion. They're going to get back in the ring together and get it in. So look forward to that. With that being said, like I said, thank y'all for hanging out. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. Karima, can we get up out of here? Because Jay Snake, if we don't play this song one more time, Jay Snake going to be mad at 7,000. So let's go ahead and get up out of here with the this comes from Shakka Hotep Ma'at Productions featuring Shakka Atmose with the remix of Show You featuring JJ7000. Let's get it.
be doing. But I said, wait a minute. I remember Dr. Clark's words. So, the talent's there, the will is there, the desire is there, so just do it. And I'm doing it.
And how
That's
long
why
have
we're
you
here.
been doing this?
I've been doing this for actually a very short time, but I have tried to be responsible about it vocally, taking lessons and running and exercising, being really disciplined about it and trying to be professional with it, because I think as Black people, our standards need to be known to the rest of the world. We don't do anything halfway, so I've been trying to do it full way for some time now, maybe about a year or so, possibly.
Wow.
Hopefully I deliver.
You will.
I will deliver.
Wonderful. Oh yeah. We've seen what you put out, and it's very professional. And hopefully he'll be able to get bumped on MTV or someplace like that eventually. But even if he isn't, it's going to reverberate through our community.
Definitely.
And speak to those that need to hear this important message.
Especially the youth. They
That's
really
right.
need to hear this type of message.
That's right. That's right.
Because we're losing them fast every day in numbers that most people don't want to talk about.
Right.
And I even like the name Ma'at Hotep Records. I mean, it says it all in itself. We're trying to maintain Ma'at and keep that balance so that our youth know what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
I gave it that name so that they would ask questions.
Good.
Yeah.
Everything I do so people ask questions.
So there's a dialogue. That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
Get it started.
Wow.
Get it started.
So we're not going to spend too much more time talking right now because we want you to be able to enjoy a performance by this incredible artist. And so without further ado, Brother Shakka Atmose, accompanied by Brother Jostix. Hotep.
12.
Baby, let me set you straight.
Get
What
it,
we
Shaka.
did back then was great.
Hey.
You just
Oh.
don't know.
Oh.
Let me show you the past so your future can look bright. Help you walk into the light.
Light.
If you see yourself, I've heard them say that we wasn't even there. Baby, let me make it clear. We were the ones.
Go on,
If
son.
you pay attention to what I'm about to show, there's no doubt that you will know. We were the ones, and I'ma show you. Nefertari was said she was black because
Oh, Shaka.
that's the way that Ryan Mayhan show you. Egypt was a black land, King Tut was a black man.
Hey.
That's the way that right down and now.
Down
As we
and
came
now.
from the southern land so hot. No, they think that we forgot. Remember the time from the horn
From
and
the
the west. These black people made their way. See them
People
coming
made
from
their
Friday.
way.
And here we are, as above, so below. This is how they built in stone. This is the truth. If you can't see yourself, then it's true you've been misled. Got some lies all in your head.
Got them babies in your head.
I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that Ryan Mayhan show you. Egypt was a black land, King Tut was a black man. Cause that's the way that Ryan Mayhan show you. Our history, it ain't no mystery. Just listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide,
Right.
what they can't deny. That Egypt was a black man. Lately I've been thinking of days gone by and all the things that we forgot.
Oh, Shaka.
Voices from the distant past
The
make themselves
distant
heard.
past.
Resurrection, something now the truth
Hey.
reveal.
Hey.
Tell me what you
This
gonna
is
do.
it.
Gonna keep it to yourself or gonna tell
Oh,
the
Shaka.
world? If you do, then prepare for the challenges you face. My heart goes out to you, precious black boys and girls, and I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that Ryan made me show you.
Hey.
Egypt
Hey.
was a black
Hey.
man, King Tut
Hey.
was a black
Hey.
man.
Hey.
That's the way that Ryan made him show you.
Hotep. 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 Happy. Hotep. Happy.
Just listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide, what
Right.
they can't deny. That Egypt was a black land and show
Hey.
you.
Hotep. Happy.
Yeah,
Hotep.
I'm gonna show
Happy.
you.
Hotep. Happy.
I'm gonna show you. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. Egypt was a black man.
Hotep.
Yeah,
Shout out to Hotep mommy. Tyree, Hotep money.
Egypt was a black
Jabari,
land.
Shakka, Smash Rockwell. This is dedicated to you.
King Tut was a black man.
All the Hotep mummies. Yeah. Egypt was a black land, man. Peace and blessings. We out. Yeah. We out. Hotep mummies. We out.